Pablo.
My name's Tyrone.
I'm Uniqua. I'm Tasha. And my name's Austin. And we're your backyard friends, the Backyardigans.
The nostalgia. The Backyardigans. One of my favorite childhood shows, to be honest. If you don't know who the Backyardigans are, well, basically it was a series about 5 animal friends having adventures in your backyard. The characters were Tasha, Austin, Tyrone, Uniqua, and the king of the show, and personally my favorite, Pablo. The series ran for 4 seasons from 2004 to 2013 with over 80 episodes. And I remember back in the day when I used to wake up and just watch TV all day, and then these 5 little friends would just entertain me for hours and hours. And yeah, those were some good times. The Backyardigans was one of the most successful next genre shows in the mid 2000s. And like I said before, I fell in love with the show and I wouldn't miss an episode. But if you know anything about lost media, you might know what pilot episodes are. And if you don't know, well, basically a pilot episode is kind of like a testing episode for a show, which the big broadcasting networks see, just like Disney or Nickelodeon. And those companies decide whether the show will be worked on or if it'll just be left in the pilot stage. So we have to understand how important pilot episodes actually are. And the Backyardigans obviously had a pilot episode. Actually, they had 2 pilot episodes. So today, I will be walking you through the story of the Backyardigans pilots. Janice Burgess, if you don't know who she is, she's basically the creator of the Backyardigans, came up with an idea for a show about 4 animal friends and 3 meerkats that go into adventures in their backyard. This idea was made in the late 90s, and she decided to name her show Me and My Friends. Then the pilot was put into work to show Nickelodeon. Yvette Helen Studios was in charge of making the costumes for the pilot. And then, in 1998, in the Nickelodeon studios at Orlando, Florida, the Me and My Friends pilot was shot. Now before I start talking about anything else, I would like to tell you about the accident that happened. Let me just confirm to you that the accident did happen and it was real. Just that it wasn't as bad as people make it out to be. What happened is that the heads of the costumes were made of carbon fiber, which is a very strong yet light material. But with all the animatronic parts inside it, the head just gave up and broke. It's speculated that the head of Uniqua's costume was the one that broke, but nothing is confirmed yet. Also, no one died and no one was injured. The worst thing that happened is that it made the pilot more expensive. Now you might be scratching your head and asking yourself 2 questions. Number 1, why was the pilot in live action instead of CGI? Well, my answer to that is that we have to remember that this was the late 90s, and the most popular shows back in the day were made in live action, like Sesame Street and Barney. So it made sense to make it live action. And the other question you might have is, how is the pilot live action and the final show became CGI? Well, that's where we're gonna be headed in this part of the story. In 2001, 3 years later after the Me and My Friends pilot was made, a new pilot was in the process, this time with CGI, which was way cheaper. That's actually one of the reasons why the Me and My Friends pilot was rejected, because of money. The pilot was very expensive to make. It is speculated that the pilot costed around $100,000 to make. And if we wanted to make a full season with 20 episodes, that would take over $1 million. And also, live action shows for children were very saturated back in the late 90s. So that may have been reasons why the pilot was rejected. But with CGI, it made the cost really low. The CGI pilot was made in New York in Nick Digital, and it used a technique called motion capture for the dancers. Which, if you don't know what motion capture is, it's a technique that takes a person's actions and translates them into animation. But it wasn't used in the final show, since the creator said it was too floaty. Then in 2002, the pilot was shown to Nickelodeon, and the Backyardigans were born. Then in 2003, the character Austin was created, and Alvana was chosen to animate the series. Then, in 2004, the Backyardigans were launched, and became the huge success we know today. Now, will we ever be able to see these pilots? Well, from the animated pilot we might see pretty soon, since some of the animators were able to take the pilot with them, in case they wanted a job and wanted to show what they worked on before. As for Me and My Friends, it's gonna be a tough process, since most of the people that worked on the pilot weren't even Nickelodeon staff. They were just called to make the pilot. And after they made it, they left. Only a special group of people were actually able to see the pilot. And we don't even know if they took the tape home, or if it's just destroyed. The most likely person to have it is the creator, Daniel Burgess, or Nickelodeon themselves. But we all know Nickelodeon won't make it public so easily. Both of these pilots are still considered lost media to this day, and I hope that everyone watching can support into finding this piece of media. But don't believe everything you see, because there are some people out there who just want fame. And yeah, this was the story of the Backyardigans pilots.